Hello, my name is Josh, and I'm here with Cody today. Cody, how are you doing?
Good, Josh. How are you?
Pretty good. Today we're going to be talking about ICT and specifically what we've learned from our class. That's information communication technology. We're going to be looking at some of the apps that we started using in that class and maybe some insights on how we'd use them in our different classes. Cody, what's your background again?
I have a major in physics and a minor in mathematics.
And I am a chemistry major and a geography minor. So we're going to look at some apps that we would probably use or some programs. The first thing we're going to look at is Desmos, and you have the physics and the math background, so take her away.
Yeah, so Desmos is a good program for a graphing calculator. So basically, you can allow students to go on this website. I believe there's even an app for your phone, and you're able to graph functions and all of that kind of thing. So really useful in a math classroom where the applied curriculum heavily relies on graphing, using graphing calculator and technology, as well as the grade 11, 12 pre-calc also uses a lot of graphing, and a lot of teachers choose to use graphing calculators to help with that.
How much does that cost for a graphing calculator?
So for Desmos, it's free, but if you were going like a normal one would be the TI-83 from Texas Instruments. It's about $150. So it's a cheaper way to kind of allow students access to this technology that could be very helpful for them, seeing it pictorially and getting it drawn for them.
Well, I don't know if I'd be using graphs in chemistry, but it's awesome to hear you talking about why this is just a great program, how it's offering almost $150 worth of uses. Mm-hmm. So great use, or great program. The next thing we're going to talk about is Google Docs. There's also Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Forms. What are these kind of similar to again?
So they're kind of very similar to Microsoft Office. Although the Google platform is actually free. So you have access to all of that stuff that Google has supplied. You do need an internet connection though. So that's
what doesn't?
One, yeah, nowadays everything needs internet. But the main feature that I find useful in a classroom that Google allows you to do is that you have access to having multiple people work on Google Docs or Slides, something like that. Everybody has access to it.
Yeah.
So you can share the link and have multiple people working on it at once, which is really good in group assignments that we all know can be hard to get together and work as a group all at one time.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm using this right now in one of my projects in my schooling. So I'm working on a project with Nick, and we can add in information at the same time or whenever we really want to, as long as we have an internet connection, which is just awesome. I could definitely see myself using this in my school where I want my students to be working on group projects, but I don't want them to be just making a project with only one person typing and one person giving ideas. Do you ever remember being on PowerPoint and having the one person type out everything and you have to wait for them to finish? So now in this idea, Nick could be working on this first part, units and strands, and I could be working on culminating tasks at the same time. So it's awesome.
As a teacher, you can also see who's editing and adding to it. So you can kind of monitor how much each student is doing.
You can take a look and see who's been editing what, and kind of taking a look at maybe if somebody is using foul language or making inappropriate comments, take a look at that, or their participation in the work.
Exactly.
So this next thing here, have you ever been on Science Buddies before?
I haven't, no, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it as a great resource. I haven't been to the site or heard a whole lot about it, but there have been some people in the faculty that have said that it's a great resource for teachers.
Okay, well, I've been using this a little bit. I was doing optics for science methods, and I'm trying to find out if there's any experiments that I can use or lesson plans I can find information from. And actually, it has one right here, Fool Your Vision, to find out how it works. And basically what these lesson plans are is they have an overview materials and just a basic idea of how to run the lesson. It's honestly a wonderful tool to help you out when you're maybe struggling on finding an idea that would work for you. And honestly, it kind of sparks your creativity and kind of makes you think about, I could use this in my classroom, or I could modify it how I want to make it more useful for my students' learning. So it's basically just a great source for lesson plans. And there are a couple other features, but this is the main source that I would use as a teacher. So did you make a website when we were in ICT?
I did make a website. I made it for a specific class, but then actually I went back and started redoing it. So I put like an e-portfolio almost in the About Me section, and then I put all of the classes that I would teach on it. So there's just one area for all my classes. Students, parents could go to see what we were doing in class, any assignments, any resources that they need for other helpful websites that would help them out with their assignments. I used Google Classroom. I don't know what you used for it.
I used Google
Google
Sites. Yeah. So you can create your own website using Google. Your students can do this as well, but the way I used it was to create a web page for my science class or potential science class in the future. So it's just a little introduction here on the first page. But if we go to the second mark here, which is assignments, we can take a look at some of the what are they? Work, or some of the assignments that I'm giving my students. So for example, I want them to review acids and bases, and they can do that by looking at this video done by Khan Academy. It's just a great way to share information with your students and also have constant updates on resources, news, anything useful to your classroom. And it's always going to be present there. They don't have to come to you to ask what assignment is needing to be done for homework. So that's a great resource for myself. This next thing we'll be talking about is Maple. And Maple, what does that stand for again? I'm not even too sure. I forget. I think it's Manitoba. Can't remember, but that's okay. It's a great website. It's mostly a Manitoba teacher's blog. And so if you want to, you can follow some of the blogs here that give you a lot of information about different ideas and activities and topics. So for example, I followed Maker Education here because I'm interested in maker spaces and I maybe want to introduce that into my classroom. And they have a blog here that members of the group can post things. And so here we have just a little idea for creating sculptures out of penguins out of clay. And it's just a very interesting little resource here where you can find ideas for your classroom and maybe even resources that you can just withdraw from the website and put right into your class. So great idea.
Yeah, and it's also good because since it's Manitoba based, all of the stuff in there would be directly tied to the Manitoba curriculum.
Which is kind of hard in some of these resources that we're kind of pulling off the internet. They're coming from different locations.
Yeah, even different countries. And it's hard to relate that to what you're trying to teach, changing it to a level that your students are at. Because this way, at least we know it's from Manitoba.
Yeah.
So most students in Manitoba are going to be at similar levels. We're all trying to achieve the same outcomes. So it's just a great way to see what other teachers in the province are doing.
Well, it's awesome to have that Manitoba perspective. The last thing we're going to be going over is Mentimeter, or Menti. Do you want to do a little bit explaining here what this is?
Yeah, so this is just a word cloud that we did. So as a teacher, you can set up a just like a voting poll or a word cloud, and you can get students to sign on with the code that's on the above. And then what they can do is they can sign in through a device, and they can actually put words. You can ask them words. They can put words that maybe you're doing a new unit and you want to know what the students already know, their prior knowledge to the unit, for a formative assessment. And they'll just put words that they maybe associate with the topic in the unit. and it just a good site, good and fast.
Yeah, so I had the idea of word cloud up here, and I just thought about some words that maybe tie in with that. So word splash is very similar. We're talking about ICT right now, and this is where we got the idea of Menti from. So I put ICT there, and then I just put a little smiley face with the word wow. And it's kind of it's interesting because your students see what other people have put. And let's say 20 people put word splash onto their voting ticket. Word splash is going to increase in size, and it'll get bigger than the words of ICT and this little smiley face here. So if there's a word that really pops out to students and students use it quite a bit, then that word is going to grow. And it's just kind of like something that you can point out on the board that a lot of students have this idea about word clouds. So there are also other things you can use. You can have multiple choice, image choice, the word cloud we just went over, a scale possibly. These are just some open-ended answers. So what would you like to say about a topic? And this person had said, I had a great time today. So there's a lot of ways you can use this, but like Cody said, it's mostly used for formative assessment. So it's a great way to just kind of get the general knowledge from your students and have an idea of where they're at. So is there anything else you want to go over today, Cody?
No, I think we went over quite a bit. Of course, there's lots more resources around. We don't want to spend hours going over every single thing. Those are kind of some quick looks at some useful things that we'll probably use in our classroom. And of course, we're always going to be learning more about these ones and more about all the other options available to us as educators.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else I'll be able to find on the internet. I'm sure there'll be more resources, but these are great ideas right here, from Desmos to Menti and everything in between. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and we'll see you next time.